Good evening or good morning all, and many thanks for taking the time to attend this presentation and demo. My name is Aldo Comi, and I am co-founder and CEO of Soccerment. To join me here today, we have Roberto Angiorni, Head of Data Science at Soccerment, and Cormac McAinsh, a match analyst certified by the Italian Football Federation, who also has a very entertaining YouTube channel called FootballMeta. Hi, Roberto. Hi, Cormac.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Fantastic. So the next 30 minutes will be structured as follows. I will start with a brief presentation of xvalue and why we believe it is a very important stepping stone in our analytics journey. Then I will leave the floor to Cormac and Roberto for a demo of the platform. And finally, there will be 5 minutes dedicated to Q&A. At any time of the presentation and the demo, if you have questions to ask, please do not hesitate to write it in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer the questions in those 5 minutes. First of all, I will need to do my best to activate the chat. And while Cormac and Roberto will do the demo, I will do my best to activate it. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you xvalue. And I will share some slides. I will start with the claim. The claim is decode the game. So how do we want to support you decoding the game? Well, we strongly believe in the power of combining two technologies. First, advanced metrics. Advanced metrics allow a better description of the underlying soccer performance by excluding most of the randomness which affects results in soccer. The second technology I want to highlight is artificial intelligence, which will become more and more important in the future. So let's start with advanced metrics. We have 12 proprietary models, and the number of advanced metrics in our platform will keep increasing in the future. We have obviously our own model of expected goals. Deriving from the model of expected goals, we have shooting goals added, we have goals prevented for goalkeepers. Then we have a model of expected assist, which I believe it is special because it is pass-centric. Maybe Roberto and Cormac will later elaborate on that. But thanks to the expected assist model, we are able to introduce a new metric called the expected offensive value added, which is, I think, a very interesting metric because it is able to tell you a little bit more about the talented players able to transform the chances into better ones. Conceptually, then we have expected threat models, which is similar to expected offensive value added, and we have it for both passes and carries. Passes and carries, you put that together, and what you obtain is 1-2s, which is a very important skill in order to go past defenders. We have then two metrics which are related to pressing. One is build-up disruption percentage, and the other one is gegenpressing intensity. Both metrics were developed together with Antonio Gagliardi. Then we have the field tilt, which in our view is a much better metric for understanding how the team is able to dominate the match rather than ball possession, which doesn't tell us much. And then we have our expected points model, and expected points are able to basically distinguish between results and performance. So it is, again, a very interesting number to look at. I said earlier, artificial intelligence will be applied basically in everything in our lives. Our lives will change quite a lot in the next future. Soccer is not different, and there are a lot of tasks where artificial intelligence will become important. And as Soccerment, we want to participate actively in this trend. And especially, well, not in all of them, but in most of these tasks. For example, in scouting, in match analysis, then also in player development and injury prevention and rehabilitation, in this case, not through xvalue.ai, but through Exceed, our wearable device. Then we will not participate in ticketing and budgeting, but we will look into media and eventually probably also betting. Now, to be ready for introducing artificial intelligence in our systems, what we had to do was to re-engineer all our data pipelines, right? And that was very, very important to do. Like here you have how the data pipeline currently works. We work with the event data from Opta, and all the system, which is mostly based in Python, is based in the AWS framework, and that is how we get to our data warehouse, and through the APIs we connect to artificial intelligence tool. This system allows us a high granularity of the data, and allows us what is, I think, very interesting, which is data integration. And data integration will become more and more useful in the future for us, especially when we will be integrating our the event data coming from Opta with both our wearable device as well as tracking data eventually. Now, the platform is both deep and wide as well. What do I mean by deep? By deep, I mean that like our focus has always been to go very much into the details, and basically going as deep as possible in the analysis of the data. And I can say probably that our analytics platform was already, among the public ones, was already one of the platforms with the highest number of advanced metrics. But yeah, the number of advanced metrics will continue to increase going forward. But now it is also becoming kind of wide too. We have 15 countries and 20 leagues in those 15 countries, almost 400 teams and 12,000 active players. Regarding the tools, we have player analysis or team analysis and ranking tools. We have match reports, match previews. Roberto and Cormac again will give you a representation of it later on. We have a plasma search, live results, and a data download area where you can download all our advanced metrics in our proprietary models. We remain committed to bringing data analytics to everyone. That is part of the mission of the company. The mission of the company is to accelerate the adoption of data analytics and make it available to everyone. That is why we have, for example, a wearable device by which we can track the data of literally anyone. You don't have to be a professional player. You can be a non-professional, an amateur even. Our focus is youth teams. We want to have data about youth teams. We believe that for young players, young athletes, it is actually more important to have data. because with data you can optimize two very important aspects, which is first of all player development, but secondly also scouting. And yeah, I think having a higher level of objectivity would make team sports more meritocratic and also inclusive. But so when I talk about democratizing soccer analytics, basically our platform can be seen by anyone, by even guests who are not signed up. They can still see all the stats, all the basic stats related to their players and favorite teams. They can compare players. If then the guest signs up, it can start having access to more tools, for example, to advanced metrics such as expected goals and expected assists, and our players now search tool. So we are starting he or she is able to start the journey into data analytics and for free. Now, I also want to stress that in other platforms online, you have free data. In those cases, however, normally you get bombarded by advertising. In our platform, we have never had third-party advertisers, and we will never have. And I want to make clear that ads are a cost, are also a huge cost. And sometimes, that is not considered. Then if you subscribe, you become a member, and by becoming a member, you basically have access to all our tools and our platform and our advanced metrics, and basically you decide what to have access to. In fact, we have different plans. We have free plans which are customizable on your needs. You can choose for example, you can choose to have access to one country. For England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France, one country means having access to both first and second divisions. And then for the others, you have access, for now at least, to only the first divisions. So let's assume that you want to have access to English football. You select England. You have access to Premier League and the Championship, and what you pay is $7.99 per month per user. Then we have a second plan called the Best Europa. You have access to the top 5 leagues and their second divisions. And with this plan, you pay $29.99 per month. Finally, our full access, you have access to all the countries, which means all the 20 leagues. Let me just note that Mexico, Austria, and Switzerland will be available in the next few weeks. And with the full access, for the full access, members pay $59.99 per month. Obviously, these rates are if you pay monthly, but you can select to pay yearly, which optimizes things and makes it cheaper, and you end up paying $6.67 per month for one country, $24.99 for the Best Europa plan, and $49.99 per month for the full access. Finally, what is next? So xvalue.ai is sort of a framework, and plugged to this framework, we have right now only one product, which is xvalue stats. But in the future, we will add additional tools, additional products. For example, by the end of the European soccer season, by July, we will have our xvalue VDA, which stands for Virtual Data Analyst, tool. Then by the end of the next football season, we will have a tool dedicated to match analysis and a tool dedicated to player recruiting. And yeah, I finished my part. Sorry for the for missing the presentation. I was not able to find it. I recovered and I tried to be as quick as possible. Now I'll pass to Cormac and Roberto. So Cormac and Roberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aldo. That was an excellent presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Cormac. Myself and Roberto are going to give you a quick rundown of some of the main features on the new xValue platform. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see the platform for yourselves. So as Aldo mentioned, here we are on the homepage of the xValue platform. As Aldo mentioned, the amount of leagues available and the amount of metrics is consistently being updated. So this is what we have available now, but it's constantly growing and there's always new leagues. For today's example, we're going to take a look at the Premier League, extremely competitive league, but take note that everything we look at today is doable in all the leagues that you see present here. So by selecting the Premier League, we go in and you can already see a more expanded view of your regular league table. There's some contextual information on the league as a whole at the top, including the amount of goals per match, the average non-penalty XG per shot, the average age of the league, and the percentage of minutes played by under 21 players. In the league table below, there's also some advanced metrics such as expected goals and expected goals conceded. And Soccerment allows you to filter by all these variables to see which teams are overperforming or underperforming in any of these metrics that you're interested in. So, for example, our expected points model shows that a team like Brighton actually moves up by filtering, it actually moves up by 2 positions. So they're currently 7th in the Premier League, but they've moved up by 2 places with the expected points. So maybe as an analyst or as a scout, we're interested in seeing how a team like that performs and what their tactics are. So we can choose any of the teams here. Let's say we want to do an analysis on Brighton. So we select Brighton, and that opens up our team page. There's some contextual information at the top as well, similar to what we had with the Premier League table. But the most important part here shows you the overview and the matches comparison. And the overview already gives you a good understanding of a team's style of play at a glance. So as we can see here, it's currently being compared with the Premier League as a whole. And we can hover over these to get some more information about each value. But if we wanted to compare this to a specific team, then we can do that. So for example, let's say we want to do a comparison with Newcastle, who's another team that's currently doing very well this season, fighting for a place in the Champions League. We can compare these 2 teams' style of play quite quickly at a glance. For example, we can see Newcastle's a team that relies quite heavily on long balls, while Brighton's a team that's more possession-based with a higher possession percentage and a higher field tilt compared to Newcastle. And if we want more detail on this overview here, we can zoom in on our matches comparison, which gives us a rundown of the matches played so far throughout the season for all these values. So we can select different values and compare the 2 teams and see how they've progressed throughout the season. What Soccerment also allows you to do is, if we want specific information on a specific match day, is by scrolling down, you can access our match reports. These match reports are available after every match. And so, for example, we can see Brighton lost 5-1 in their last match to Everton, who are currently in a relegation battle. Maybe we're interested in how that could happen with a team fighting for Europa League, for Champions League. So by clicking on the match report option, it opens up this detailed view of our match reports with all the information you could need on how a game unfolded. There's some contextual information on the goal scorers, the positions of the shots, but I'm going to let Roberto explain some of the more interesting details of this page in a bit more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Cormac. So in this match report, we try to condense a lot of information provided by our advanced metrics and proprietary metrics. So first of all, since here we have a very one-sided scoreline, one thing we can see, for example, in the central pitch is some basic statistics about the match, in particular the chances created in terms of expected goals. And here we see that Brighton may have lost 5-1 in this match, but they actually created more chances than their opponents. So this gives us another level to read this game that goes beyond standard stats and the scoreline. And here we also have some more in-depth stats, like for example, the average XG per shot, which is gives us an indication of the shot selection of the team. And this is telling us that the value for Everton was quite high, and this means that they only took shots which had a relatively high chance of becoming goals. And this can happen when a team deliberately decides not to, for example, shoot from outside the penalty box, but also when a team tries to create chances mostly via counterattacks, because then they are facing a disorganized defense and the chances are usually more threatening. We can read further into the game by looking at the pass networks and the expected threat heat maps that we see on the sides, where we see, for example, that thanks to the average position of players and the number of passes that is coded in the size of the points, we can see that Brighton had a much higher average position up the pitch and had a lot more of the ball, while Everton chose to sit back and try to create chances on counterattacks. While the expected threat heat map that is below the pass network shows us from which areas of the pitch the team created the most dangerous chances that are shown in lighter colors. Then in the middle, we have a set of descriptive statistics for the two teams during the match, and we contextualize the values using these color bars that represent the ranking of this stat compared to all the other matches played in the league so far. And we also compare with the team average during the season with the white bar. So we can instantly see if the team did better or worse than they usually do and how they rank with the league. And then below we have a more detailed story of how the match unfolded. We have an expected threat timeline, which tells us which team was dominating in different moments of the match, based on their ability to bring the ball into dangerous areas and not based on the shots. So we see that Brighton had several times during the match where they were dominating, but they didn't convert these moments into scoring chances or goals. And we can also see this by comparing the timeline with the cumulative XG timeline that we have below, that shows us the progression of the total chances created during the match for both teams.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Roberto. And if we go back to the team page, not only can you have in-depth understanding of how a team performed in a specific game, but you can also look ahead to the team's next fixture with our match previews. So Brighton's next match is against title contenders Arsenal. And by clicking on the match preview button, it opens up a detailed PDF with both teams' most important metrics from the season to give you a better understanding of how both teams compare. There's some similar information from the reviews, such as the pass network and the expected threat heat map, but there's also some contextual information on a team's current form that Roberto will again explain to you in a bit more detail.
Yeah, sure. So with respect to the match report, here we have in the middle more contextualized description of the statistics of the two teams during the season so far. So we see a set of stats that are more related to the style of play than performance for the most part. And this color coding allows us to instantly see how the teams compare based on these metrics, and also to see how they rank within the leagues, because we have in the background all the other dots represent all the other teams in the league, so we can see both what are the differences between the teams and how they stack up against all the other teams in the league. And then below that we have the expected goals created and conceded timelines, which tell us more information about the form of the two teams coming into the match, because we look at the last 10 matches played, and we can see whether the team has been consistently creating more chances than their opponents during these matches. And we also further contextualize this information by showing the level of the opponent. So let's say the difficulty of the match, which is color-coded in the squares below the timeline. And so the lighter the color, the stronger the opponent was. And this is codified by the average expended points per game of the opponent. And then in addition to this main page, we also have two further pages in the preview where we summarize the main advanced metrics normalized per 90 minutes for all the players in the team during the season. And here, the color coding represents the ranking of the player compared to the league for for any specific metrics. So, for example, if we look at the strikers in the Arsenal team, we can see that both Gabriel Jesus and Nketiah have actually pretty good values of non-penalty XG per 90 minutes compared to the league. So this is an information that we can get just at a glance for both teams, obviously following the color coding of the entire preview.
Okay, so once again, if we go back to the team page, by scrolling down, the final section includes a detailed breakdown of the most important metrics for different elements such as shots, chance creation, build-up, pressing, and defense. Our filter is still selected on Newcastle, but this is a comparison that can be done against the league as a whole or with any individual team that you want from that league. And Soccerment also helps you identify where the differences in the two teams lie, with the numbers being highlighted showing a significant difference between the two teams. This section includes both standard and advanced metrics, such as expected goals, and also some proprietary metrics unique to Soccerment, such as BDP and GPI. Roberto, would you care to explain some of our more advanced metrics in this section?
Sure. So BDP and GPI are two proprietary metrics that we developed that are focused specifically on pressing. With BDP, we wanted to complement existing metrics by measuring the effect of pressing on the opponent in an indirect way. So what we do is check whether our team's pressing is reducing the passing accuracy of our opponents in a consistent way throughout the season. So if this is the case, then we will have a positive value of BDP, which means that our pressing is actually being disrupted to our opponents. And in this case, we see that Newcastle actually has the third best value in the league. While for our counter-pressing framework, which is shown here with the gegenpressing intensity and gegenpressing efficiency, we check for GPI, for the intensity metric, we check the fraction of time that the team applies counter-pressing, so tries to recover the ball after losing it in attacking areas. While with the efficiency metric, we check the fraction of time a team actually recovers the ball after losing it within 6 seconds in attacking areas. And in this specific metric, we see that Brighton is actually the second best team in the league.
So with all this information, once we feel our team analysis is complete, then you have the option of downloading all this information. But maybe we want a bit more information on the individual players as a whole to understand who the key players within the team are. So by selecting the player rankings tab, it opens up a ranking of all the Brighton players in all the advanced metrics that we looked at earlier. So for example, maybe we see that Mitoma has an extremely high rating in expected threat. So we want to know a bit more about his individual style of play. So by selecting on the player profile, it opens up the player page. And similarly to the team page, the player homepage gives you a lot of information at a glance, such as their heat map and the spider chart, highlighting their percentile rank in a number of key areas. For example, if we highlight the carry section, we can see how Mitoma ranks in the top 2% of players in the Premier League with expected threat from carries. However, one of the most important elements on this page that uses Soccerment's proprietary algorithms is the player function at the top of the page. Roberto, can you explain how we define a player function?
Sure. So this is the result of a proprietary model that we developed to characterize playing styles for players. So not really their performance or how well they are performing, but what is their function on the pitch, because we want to move away from traditional player roles and focus on what the players actually do on the pitch, because two players that are playing in the same nominal positions, for example, fullback, can interpret the role in a very different way. So we think we need to go a step further in characterizing the players. So we did this with a clustering algorithm by selecting a set of descriptive statistics for the style of play and grouping players into different categories. So in this case, the player function or cluster that we called one-to-one explorer is made by players which are usually wide players that operate in attacking areas. And their focus is, as the name says, is 1v1 situations. So going into creating numerical superiority by dribbles. And they also have an important contribution also to finishing and chance creation.
So if we want even more information on the player function, then we can switch to the advanced stats page, which is where we can access all the most insightful metrics for all the players. At the center of the page is where we have a polar chart, which gives us a quick view of how the player ranks compared to the others with the same function. So every one-to-one explorer will have this polar chart, but depending on which cluster a player falls into, this polar chart will show different metrics that are more pertinent to his style of play. So, for example, we can see here that Mitoma is excellent in the majority of categories in the one-to-one explorer. The only one where he's a bit below average is successful crosses, but that's also highlighted by the fact that he's very good at cutbacks. So it's not really, he doesn't really look for crosses, he looks for dribbling a lot more often. But if we want a direct comparison with other players in the league, then we can scroll down to the smart ranking panel, where we can see a detailed and expanded view of other players in a similar position in the same cluster, and how he ranks compared to them. So, for example, for expected threat from carries, we can choose any of these values here. Mitoma ranks first in the Premier League for expected threat from carries. To help you in your analysis, Soccerment also allows you to download all these smart visualizations that you can see here. So, for example, by selecting the download toggle here, you can download the polar chart. Apologies for my slow internet. And you can use the polar chart for your own analysis and the own passes map and heat maps. I think it's not downloaded, but that's not to worry. And finally, the advanced stats page also gives you players' values in advanced metrics relating to shooting, chance creation, and progression, which you can filter by seasonal or P90 values with the toggle here. So, for example, in the chance creation tab, we can see that Mitoma has an open play expected assists of 4.99, which puts him in the top 2.8% of players in this metric in the Premier League. Finally, similarly to the team page, you can download all the metrics for a single player from the downloads tab. So you can choose to, by selecting this tab here, you can choose to filter all the values by either seasonal or individual matches. You can choose the different file format. You can choose the seasons that you're interested in, and all the values here are available for you to download. So that concludes our presentation on some of the new features on our platform. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll go back to Aldo for any questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Cormac and Roberto. Now, I'll go onto the Q&A. We have a few questions, so we'll try to be as quick as possible to answer all the questions. I think all of you see the Q&A box. Now, I'll start with a question from Jonas. For me, Aldo, you mentioned that your expected assist model is pass-centric. Could you please elaborate on what you mean by that and how it differs from other models? Well, I'm not the person to answer this question. I will leave it to Roberto.
Yeah, thank you, Aldo. So in general, when you see stats that are marked as XA in most of the public platforms that are available, what it actually means is something else, which would be better called expected goals assisted, which means the XG of a shot is simply attributed to the player who made the last pass. And this is what is considered a metric for chance creation. in our model, we decided to go a step further and to create a specific model focused on all completed passes, independently of what happens after the pass. So we attribute an expected assist value to all completed passes, whether the receiving player shoots or not. And we believe this is a fair evaluation of chance creation, because we are separating the passing output of a player from the decision making and the skill of their teammates.
Fantastic. Thank you, Roberto. Then Jeff asks, is there a free trial available for the platform? Of course, there is a free trial. It's a 14-day free trial. Luis asks, that I mentioned Exceed during presentation, and if I can explain Exceed in more details. Exceed is our set of smart shingers. It is a particular set of shingers which is able to track data about both the athletic as well as the technical performance of football players. So it's a wearable device. You wear it instead of wearing normal shingers, you wear these shingers, and you can get a lot of data that you can download directly to your smartphone, basically. Then Myron asks, what countries are you looking to collect data from in the future? For example, we will be looking to target Southeast Asia. Myron, we do not collect data. I mean, like we get data from Opta for top leagues, and eventually we will also look into Southeast Asia. Why not? It's a question of how much we grow, and hopefully we will grow enough to get into Southeast Asia. Victoria asks, how long after the game can you download the match report? I'll leave it to Roberto to answer.
Yeah, so actually the match reports are available just a few minutes after the end of the match, because we process our data feed that comes from Opta live. So we have a live processing of our data and live updates. So as soon as we get a trigger for the end of the match, we start the process to create the report, and then just a few minutes after the match, it's available to download.
Thank you, Roberto. Abdullah asks if we can compare more than two teams. I think he's referring to the team panel where Cormac was showing the comparison between Brighton and Newcastle. Right now, we can't compare more than two teams, but it's I think something that we can look into for the future, of course. Tushar asks if we are planning to add cross-league comparison for players or teams, considering the level of difficulty for different leagues. Yes, we are planning to add it. It's a very let's say difficult exercise. I like to have it consistent. I don't know if Roberto would like to add something about it. You are the right person to answer.
Yeah, this is actually a very, very interesting problem and challenge, and which we are definitely going to tackle. And the main reason why is not really seen around all this evaluation of the relative strength of leagues and the impact that it can have on a player when they transfer from one league to the other. There is a reason why this is not seen so commonly, is because it's very difficult to do it, being sure that, for example, a certain metric for the player dropped a bit when they moved to another league, but was it because of the move of the league? Was it because of other factors? So it's a tough problem, but we are definitely going to tackle it. Yeah.
I'll give a very short example. Like I was a sort of a semi-professional footballer. I used to be low quantity, high quality, and relatively speaking. And when I was playing in slightly higher leagues, I was playing better than when I was playing in lower leagues. That tells you a lot about how difficult this exercise can be. to make it consistent. Now, Rachel asks, I work for a club and I'm interested in scheduling a meeting with your team. How can I do that? Yeah, well, thank you for your interest in scheduling a meeting with us. Since you registered to this presentation, you will basically receive an email in the following days containing also the link to the recording of the live session. And in the email, you will also receive a calendar link, and you will be able to book a meeting with our data science team. Will, can you use the graphics in TikTok videos? Right. Why not? If you tag us, you can definitely use it. Pedro asks, could you explain more about VDA, next tool in the platform? Well, Pedro, I cannot share too much about it. As I said, it means a virtual data analyst. You know, it's an AI tool. And the only thing I can say is that it will exploit our advanced matrix to create interesting insights. That's all I can say about it. Do you have live data during the game? Asks Jerem. Yes, we do have live data. Only some of our advanced metrics are processed at the end of the match, but maybe Roberto, you can elaborate better than I do. Like XOVA, you know.
Yeah, there are a few metrics that can only be calculated at the end of the match because we need to process, for example, the game sequences and possessions and all that stuff that can be done only when the match is done. But most of the most important advanced metrics like expected goals, expected assists, expected threat is definitely available live.
Thank you, Robbie. Mac, if I pronounce it correctly, says, asks if you can apply in the youth level with a recruiting scouting platform with key functions. Will key functions? Well, if I understood correctly, the question regards the key functions of the clustering related to youth. Yeah, our goal is to make that available through the data of our smart shingers. You know, for our goal is to have the smart shingers to able to track high quality data, and then you, after the performance, are able to compare yourself to, you know, the professional players, and yeah, we will also have a clustering model to better understand your actual function on the pitch. I think we can do that. Gerardo asks which data is available to download, just summarized statistics, or the event tracking data is also available. We have aggregate statistics. We don't have event by event data that is not available to download, but we have like what's available is, for example, even at the match level, you can download all the data, so you have enough granularity, I guess. Dario, do you plan to cover the major Asian leagues sooner or later? Another question about Asian leagues. And Dario, we try to do that. We'll try to do that as soon as possible. Obviously, it's not easy. We need to grow organically, and data is kind of expensive. Luca asked, do you offer API access to the underlying data too? Yes, we do offer API access, Luca. If you would like to talk about it, really happy to talk about it, obviously. Joe is asking whether consumers looking to do comparison, or could clubs use it to inform their squad and transfer decisions? Well, this platform, xValue Stats, has more to do with like anyone. I wouldn't say consumer or clubs. Anyone can use it. Clubs, consumers, professional of all kind, media. There's no limit. It is I mean, it was designed to be as simple as possible so that different personas could be able to use it and derive a lot of insights from it. Then we will have in the future some tools that will be more pro, sort of. For this, this platform is really of use for our mission to make data analytics available to anyone. Niccolò, I have a user profile on the previous soccer analytics platform. Is my user profile still valid for xvalue.ai stats? Yes, we have migrated it. We have migrated all the users, so you shouldn't have any problem. And in case you have a problem, please contact us and we will solve it in minutes. Johannes, great presentation. Thank you, Johannes. Sugar Shinohara, great information. Thank you for doing this. I would like to ask you if there is a version for women's side of the game. We have women data as well. For the time being, it won't be public. I mean, it's a very recent addition, and we want to create all the metrics related to women first. I don't think we'll we'll make it as public as we have it on men's football, there's no final decision there. Anonymous attendee asks, future product, xvalue.ai, what features are you going to add in the future? So as I said, I cannot elaborate more on these tools. I mean, like you will see xvalue.ai in a few months, actually, by the end of July. And so you will start having an idea of also all the others that will come at a later stage. Thank you, Simona. Diego Esteban. Thank you. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Alessandro. Anonymous attendee, if I want just one league, what will be the price? As I said in my early presentation, probably you missed the initial part. One country is 7.99 per month. That's it. We were able to answer all the questions. So many thanks to everyone for participating. Many thanks to Cormac and Roberto. And please start a free trial with our platform and let us know what you think, and any feedback will be much appreciated. Many thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.